When fearless Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, the unapologetic voice of Texas's 30th District, stepped onto the Jimmy Kimmel live stage, no one anticipated the vicious ambush that would unfold. Kimmel, known for his sharp wit, launched a scathing attack on Crockett's outspoken political record, expecting to rattle her. Instead, her electrifying response, a razor-sharp takedown of his tactics and privilege, left the studio stunned and Kimmel reeling, exposing a side of the host that dismantles his affable persona. This wasn't just a talk show spat. It was a raw clash of truth against power, with Crockett's defiance rewriting the narrative on live TV. This isn't just a celebrity showdown. It's a seismic unmasking of late-night television's hidden agendas. Stick around as we unravel the explosive details, and make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story reveals the real Jimmy Kimmel, like never before. According to insiders, the tension was brewing before Crockett even arrived at the studio. Known for her viral critiques, like calling J.D. Vance a weirdo on MSNBC in 2024 and mocking political figures on X in 2025, Crockett was invited to discuss her rising influence and recent legislative push for equitable health care. Jasmine was all business, a crew member recalled. She was charming with the staff, talking policy, but you could feel her intensity. Her team had coordinated with producers to focus on her work, and she spent the pre-show prep reviewing notes, her resolve palpable. But the mood darkened when Kimmel swept in, his demeanor clipped and edgy. Sources say he was rattled by recent guest confrontations and saw Crockett's boldness as a challenge. Jimmy was off, a production assistant, disclosed. He was muttering about her viral rants and how he'd test her. It felt personal. This hostile undercurrent set the stage for a clash that would leave the audience gasping. When the show began, the studio buzzed with anticipation. The audience's cheers for Crockett's entrance, a mix of excitement and curiosity. Kimmel's introduction was curt, barely masking his unease, and Crockett strode out, her vibrant presence commanding the stage, her eyes scanning the crowd with quiet confidence. The contrast was stark. Crockett, authentic and unflinching, versus Kimmel, poised to provoke. He opened with a question about her healthcare advocacy, but quickly veered into a sharp jab. "So, Jasmine, you're making waves in Congress," he said, smirking. "All these fiery speeches, some say you're just chasing headlines. Is that what drives you?" The audience's laughter was sparse, and Crockett's eyes narrowed, her voice steady but sharp. "Headlines? No, Jimmy, I'm driven by people, families who can't afford care, communities left behind," she said. "My speeches are for them, not your sound bites. You'd get that if you listened." The rebuke drew murmurs from the crowd, and Kimmel's smile tightened, his tone sharpening. "Listened? Oh, I hear you," he shot back. "But I mean, your style's loud, viral rants, clapping back on X. Some say it's more performance than policy. Thoughts?" The question was a landmine, and the audience tensed, sensing the personal shift. Crockett leaned forward, her smile tight but unyielding. "Performance? I'm fighting for justice, Jimmy, not applause," she said. "My rants are truth for people you don't see. Black women, workers, the ignored. You want to talk style? Let's talk yours. Poking at my work to get laughs." The audience clapped, some cheering, but Kimmel scoffed, leaning closer. "Poking? I'm just asking what people think, Jasmine. You're a firebrand, but that intensity, some say it's divisive. True?" Crockett's jaw tightened, her eyes flashing, but her voice stayed calm. "Divisive? No, Jimmy, I'm uniting people who've been silenced," she said. "I came to talk policy, healthcare, equity. You're the one dividing, turning my fight into a joke. Why's that?" The audience roared, some chanting, "Jasmine," as Kimmel's face flushed, his patience fraying. Insiders later noted Kimmel seemed determined to unsettle Crockett. "He thought he'd outwit her," a stage manager confided. "Big mistake." Kimmel pressed on, his tone dripping with condescension. "A joke? Come on, Jasmine, you're known for drama. Some say you're more about clout than Congress. Care to set that straight?" The accusation was vicious, and the audience fell silent, Crockett's hands gripping the chair, her resolve steeling as the segment teetered on the edge of combustion. The studio was a powder keg, the audience's chants of "Jasmine" igniting the air as Kimmel's biting accusation hung heavy. With no commercial break to quell the escalating tension, Kimmel's team banking on the raw drama for viral buzz, the confrontation surged forward, unfiltered and electric. Backstage, Crockett's team stood firm, one aide whispering, "She's got him." The crew, scattered around the set, exchanged nervous glances, a lighting tech muttering, "Jimmy's digging his own grave." Crockett, seated with unshakable poise, kept her eyes locked on Kimmel, her calm authority a stark contrast to his growing unease. Kimmel, his smirk fading, leaned forward, his voice laced with sarcasm as he tried to regain control. "All right, Jasmine, you say it's about justice," Kimmel said, his tone sharp. "But let's be real. Those viral moments, the ex-clapbacks, some say you're building a brand, not a legacy. Is Congress just your stage?" The jab was personal, targeting Crockett's fiery presence that had galvanized supporters but drawn skeptics. The audience murmured, and Crockett's smile tightened, her voice steady but cutting. "A stage? No, Jimmy. Congress is my battlefield," she said. "I fight for people you don't see. Families crushed by medical debt, communities ignored. My brand is their voice, not your punchline." The audience roared, some standing, and Kimmel's face flushed, his hands tapping the desk. "Voice? Sure," he snapped, his voice rising. "But your style, calling people out those rants, some say it's divisive, even toxic. Ever think you're pushing people away?" Crockett leaned forward, her presence commanding the stage. "Toxic," she fired back, her voice booming. "What's toxic is a system that leaves millions without care while you mock the people fighting it. I call out injustice, on X, in Congress here. You'd rather I stay quiet?" The audience erupted, chanting "Jasmine," as Kimmel's eyes narrowed, his control slipping. The band leader, Guillermo, tried to lighten the mood with a gesture, but Kimmel barreled on, his tone now openly hostile. "Quiet? No, but maybe less drama," he shouted, pointing at Crockett. "You're loud, Jasmine, but where's the substance? People want results, not speeches." The audience tensed, and Crockett's eyes blazed, her voice calm but lethal. "Results? I've got bills for health care, housing, equity. Where's your fight, Jimmy? You're loud too, tearing down my work for laughs. That's not substance, it's privilege." The audience went wild, some cheering, others gasping, as Kimmel's jaw clenched, his composure crumbling. "You're twisting this," Kimmel shouted, his voice cracking. "I'm just asking what people think. Your intensity, your attacks. Maybe if you weren't so aggressive, you'd connect more." Crockett didn't flinch. "Aggressive," she said, her voice a thunderclap. "I'm passionate, Jimmy, for people who've been silenced. You call it attacks? I call it truth, and you're scared of it because it doesn't fit your cozy show." The audience was on its feet, chanting, "Jasmine," as Kimmel's face reddened, his hands trembling. Sonny Hostin's voice echoed from a prior segment, but Kimmel, now unhinged, cut through. "Scared? I've been doing this for years," he yelled, pointing again. "You're the one chasing clout, Jasmine. No real impact." Crockett stood, her small frame radiating authority. "I'm done, Jimmy," she said, her voice booming. "I came to talk policy, people, progress. You turned it into a cheap shot because you can't handle truth. I'm not here for your games." The audience roared, some standing in ovation, as Crockett turned to leave, her team rising to follow. Kimmel, panic seizing him, stood too, shouting over the noise. "Yeah, run, Jasmine! You can't handle the real talk!" Crockett paused, turning back slowly, her eyes blazing. "Real talk?" she said, her voice calm but searing. "I live it every day, Jimmy, fighting for people you'll never know. You're not my talk, you're a gatekeeper who's met his match." The words landed like a knockout, and Kimmel froze, his mouth open but no retort coming. The producer, signaling frantically off stage, called for a cut, but the audience's cheers drowned out the chaos as Crockett exited, leaving Kimmel stunned, the stage a wreckage of his own making. The studio was a tempest, the audience's deafening chants of "Jasmine" reverberating as Crockett strode toward the exit, her poised exit a searing condemnation of Kimmel's unraveling. With no commercial break to halt the chaos, Kimmel's a team still banking on the segment's raw energy for viral gold. The confrontation's fallout surged, unfiltered and explosive. Backstage, Crockett's team rallied behind her, one aide muttering, "She's unstoppable." The crew, some openly cheering her stand, exchanged stunned glances, a grip whispering, "Jimmy's done for." Kimmel, still on stage, stood frozen, his face flushed and hands trembling, his eyes darting after Crockett. "You don't get to just walk out, Jasmine," he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. "This is my stage." Crockett paused at the stage's edge, turning slowly, her eyes locking onto Kimmel with a calm intensity that hushed the audience. "Your stage?" she said, her voice low but devastating. "You turned it into a hit job, Jimmy, and you missed. I came to talk about people's lives, healthcare, justice, and you swung at my character. That's not hosting. It's weak." The audience erupted, some standing, their cheers shaking the studio as Kimmel's jaw tightened. His control shattered. "Weak?" he snapped, stepping forward. "You're the one dodging, Jasmine. All those rants. Can't handle a few real questions?" Crockett stepped back toward the desk, her presence towering despite her stature. "Real questions?" she fired back, her voice booming. "You didn't ask questions. You threw shade, mocked my fight for the people to get laughs. I've faced real fights, Jimmy. Systemic racism, broken systems, folks like you who think they can silence me. You're out of your league." The audience roared, chanting "Jasmine," as Kimmel's face reddened, his hands clenching. "Silence you?" he shouted, his voice shrill. "You're the one dividing everyone. Your intensity, your ex-posts, some say you're just a loudmouth." The accusation was vicious, and Crockett's eyes blazed, her voice steady but lethal. "Loudmouth," she said, her tone searing. "I'm loud for the voiceless, Jimmy. Black women, workers, communities you'll never know. You're dividing, by making my fight a joke, disrespecting this audience, this crew, everyone who trusted your stage." The audience was on its feet, some chanting "Jasmine," as crew members offstage nodded, a PA's eyes wide with awe. Kimmel, now unhinged, laughed harshly, his voice echoing, "Disrespect? You're the one storming out like a diva. Can't take the heat, Jasmine." Crockett's smile was icy, her voice a thunderclap. "Heat? I live in it, Jimmy," she said. "I won't take you trashing my work, my people, my truth for your cheap gags. You're not a host. You're a bully who's scared of real." The audience roared, a tidal wave of cheers and gasps as Kimmel's face paled, his hands trembling. "Bully?" he sputtered, leaning forward. "This is my show, Jasmine. You're just a politician playing victim." The personal attack was desperate, and Crockett's patience snapped. "Victim?" Crockett roared, her voice shaking the studio. "I'm a fighter, Jimmy, for people you've never fought for. You had a chance to lift up real issues, to honor this audience. You chose to drag me down. That's your failure." The audience went wild, some in ovation, as Kimmel froze, his mouth open but no retort coming. The producer, now rushing toward the stage, signaled frantically for a cut, but the cameras kept rolling, capturing Kimmel's stunned silence. Crockett turned to leave again, the audience's cheers deafening, but Kimmel, grasping for control, shouted, "Yeah, run, Jasmine! Back to your ex-rants!" Crockett paused, turning one last time, her eyes like steel. "I don't run," she said, her voice calm but deadly. "I'm walking away from a stage that's lost its soul. You ain't worth my fight, Jimmy. You're already exposed." The words landed like a final blow, and Kimmel slumped back, his face ashen. The audience roared as Crockett exited, her team in step, the producer's pleas drowned out by the crowd's chants, the stage a smoldering ruin of Kimmel's own making. The backstage corridor was a crucible of raw tension as Crockett stormed toward the exit, her commanding stride a silent verdict on Kimmel's collapse. With no commercial break to douse the firestorm, Kimmel's gamble on uninterrupted filming, now a catastrophic misstep, the clash's aftermath surged, unfiltered and seismic. Crockett's team moved in lockstep, their faces a mix of triumph and resolve, one aide muttering, "She's untouchable." Crew members, some openly cheering her stand, lined the hallway, a sound tech whispering, "Jasmine just ended him." Kimmel, trailing behind, his face pale and shirt disheveled, shouted after her, his voice a frantic blend of rage and panic. "Jasmine, you can't just walk out," he yelled, his tie askew. "This is my show." Crockett kept moving, but Kimmel's desperation forced a pause near the exit doors. Security, summoned by the frantic producer, appeared, their steps hesitant, under Crockett's piercing gaze. "Ms. Crockett, we need you to wait," the head guard said, his voice unsteady. Crockett turned, her eyes blazing with calm authority. "Wait for what?" she said, her voice steady. "Your host tried to tear me down on live TV, and I answered with truth. I'm done." The guard glanced at the producer, who'd rushed up, his face slick with sweat. "Jasmine, please, let's talk this out," the producer pleaded, but Crockett cut him off. "Talk? He attacked my work, my people. Ain't no talking that back." Kimmel pushed forward, his voice rising. "Jasmine, don't act like the victim," he shouted, his tone shifting to a forced calm. "It's just TV. Things got intense. Come back, we'll smooth it over." Crockett turned fully, her presence filling the hallway like a storm. "Intense?" she said, her voice low but devastating. "You didn't get intense, Jimmy. You got personal, mocked my fight for justice to score points. That's not TV. It's betrayal, to me, to your audience, to every crew member here." The crew, some nodding quietly, felt the weight of her words, a grip wiping his eyes in awe. Kimmel flinched, his hands trembling. "Betrayal?" he sputtered, his face reddening. "I've been doing this for decades. You think you can judge me because you're some hotshot politician?" Crockett stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "I ain't judging," she said, her voice steady but lethal. "I'm telling you the truth. You had a platform to share something real, to honor the people watching. You chose to make it a fight. That's not strength. It's shame." The corridor fell silent, crew members exchanging stunned looks as Kimmel's jaw worked soundlessly, no retort forthcoming. The producer, desperate to end the standoff, tried again. "Jasmine, please, this doesn't have to—" But Crockett held up a hand, silencing him. "It's done," she said. "Your audience saw who he is. So did you." With that, she turned and pushed through the exit doors, her team following, their footsteps a final punctuation. Kimmel, frozen, shouted after her, "Yeah, run, Jasmine, that's all you got." The taunt was hollow, and Crockett didn't look back, her silhouette vanishing into the night. A young crew member clutching a headset approached Crockett's aide as the doors closed. "Tell her she's a legend," she said, her voice shaky. The aide nodded, and the corridor fell quiet. The fallout was apocalyptic. Clips of the confrontation flooded social media, racking up millions of views within hours. Crockett vs. Kimmel and Jasmine Rules trended globally as fans, activists, and insiders dissected Kimmel's meltdown. Anonymous crew leaks exposed his backstage jabs at Crockett's divisive style and his rattled demeanor post-clash, painting a portrait of a host undone by hubris. The network issued a vague statement about reviewing the segment, but whispers of sponsor pressure and executive fury swirled. Crockett, true to her firebrand spirit, stayed focused, her team releasing a terse note. Representative Crockett stands for the people and will not be silenced. Supporters rallied, hailing her as a voice for the voiceless, with "doing a Crockett" becoming shorthand for confronting power with unfiltered truth. Kimmel's show bled credibility, with publicists pulling guests and ratings tanking, his once charmed persona now toxic. His social media apology, blaming a heated exchange, was buried under comments praising Crockett's integrity and slamming his deflection. The clash was a stark reminder. In a world of privilege and posturing, authenticity reigns, and real power lies in fighting for those who need it most. The exit doors of the Jimmy Kimmel Live studio slammed shut behind Crockett, leaving the backstage corridor a smoldering ruin of Kimmel's shattered control. With no commercial break to temper the fallout, Kimmel's reckless choice to keep cameras rolling now a damning miscalculation. The clash's aftermath erupted, raw and irreversible. Crockett's team vanished into the night, their silence a testament to her unyielding stand. While crew members lingered, some exchanging nods of reverence, a stagehand muttering, "Jasmine just changed everything." Kimmel, slumped against a wall, his face ashen and hands trembling, muttered to himself, "She can't do this to me." The producer, trailing behind, his voice frantic, tried to rally him. "Jimmy, we've got to finish the show," he urged, but Kimmel's eyes were vacant, his defeat carved deep. "Finish," he whispered, his voice hollow. "It's over." Security, hovering awkwardly, dispersed as the producer signaled retreat, sensing further conflict would bury them. Kimmel, his voice rising with a mix of fury and despair, turned to the crew. "She's the one who flipped out," he shouted, his words unconvincing. "I was just doing my job." A few crew members looked away, while others, emboldened by Crockett's defiance, stared back, their silence a quiet indictment. A camera operator packing up whispered to a colleague, "Jimmy's exposed, no recovery from this." The producer, now pleading, tried to herd Kimmel back to the stage, but he stormed off to his dressing room, leaving the crew to limp through the show's end. The audience still buzzing with chants of "Jasmine, Jasmine!" Outside, Crockett climbed into a waiting car, her team exchanging terse nods, already fielding calls about the viral storm igniting online. A young PA who'd slipped out approached Crockett's aide as the vehicle idled. "Tell her she spoke for the real ones," she said, her voice trembling with admiration. The aide nodded, and the car sped off, Crockett's silhouette a fleeting shadow against the city lights. Back inside, the studio was a graveyard, the audience's energy lingering as the stage manager rushed to cue a musical guest, the show staggering to a close under the weight of Kimmel's collapse. The fallout was cataclysmic. By morning, clips of the confrontation had exploded across social media, amassing tens of millions of views. Kimmel unraveled and Crockett triumph trended worldwide as activists, voters, and insiders dissected Kimmel's meltdown. Anonymous crew leaks flooded X, detailing his pre-show jabs at Crockett's loud persona and his post-clash panic, painting a portrait of a host undone by his own arrogance. One X post, liked thousands of times, summed it up. Jasmine Crockett turned Kimmel's stage into her courtroom and won. The network, blindsided, issued a tepid statement about reviewing the incident, but rumors of sponsor pullouts and executive fury spread like wildfire. Crockett, ever resolute, let the clip speak, her team releasing a single line. Rep Crockett stands for truth and the people. Supporters rallied, hailing her as a beacon of justice, with Going Crockett coined as a badge of honor for dismantling power with unflinching honesty. Kimmel's show hemorrhaged viewers, with publicists blacklisting bookings and ratings, plummeting, his once charmed persona now a liability. A scheduled guest, a rising actor, canceled publicly, tweeting, "Not stepping into Kimmel's mess. Just Crockett truth." Kimmel's social media apology, a weak nod to high emotions, drowned in a sea of comments praising Crockett's heart and shredding his deflection. X posts captured the pulse. Jasmine Crockett stood tall. Kimmel fell flat. The clash was a brutal lesson. In a world of spin, raw truth cuts deepest, and real strength lies in fighting for the voiceless, no matter the stage. What do you think of this fiery showdown between Jasmine Crockett and Jimmy Kimmel? Was Kimmel's attack indefensible, or did Crockett's intensity tip the scales? Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more unfiltered stories, and hit that notification bell to never miss a video. We'll see you in the next one.